How's it going, everybody? This is Phil from Alternative Wrestling Worlds. I'm here today at the Remarkable Wrestling Training School in Nesconset, New York. I'm sitting here with the owner and head trainer. Sir, what is your name?
Cono Cappuccia.
And how long have you been running the school for?
So the school has been open for 3 years. Yeah, roughly 3 years. Before this, I was a trainer at like 2 other places. So I've actually been training people for probably 11 years, I'd say. But this school itself opened up 3 years ago. We were running the school out of some other building before that for like a year, but this physical place has been here for 3 years.
And what schools were you training at prior, if you don't mind me asking?
So there was like a school in like Brooklyn. It wasn't the Doghouse, but it was Doghouse in theory it was called.
Mm-hmm.
I was a trainer there, and then I was a trainer at another school in Queens, Long Island. It's called Fight the World Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a trainer there, and then so pretty much I've been training people on and off for mostly on for the past I'd say 11, 12 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And it's just something I got thrown into in the beginning. Trainers weren't showing up, so they said, "Hey, can you train the class?" I was like, okay, fine. So I started training people little by little, and then I began to love it. I began to love the actual aspect of seeing people progress and stuff like that, which is kind of why I opened up this school, because I feel like I see things in people that other people might not see, and I find little things to improve them, and maybe someone else might just write off oh, this guy's no good, he's just giving us money, but whatever. I kind of try to find little aspects for every single person, the good in them.
You try to accentuate the positives to help them stand out on their own, regardless of
Yes.
any weaknesses they may have.
Correct.
And how long have you been a professional wrestler for?
Since 2008, so almost 18 years. Or it is 18 years, yeah. I feel old.
And what's the balance between being a professional wrestler, being a trainer, and then eventually opening your own school?
It's a lot, I guess. I guess once I started training people, I kind of slowed down on wrestling. There was points and times during my career, especially early on, where I ventured out, and I would take every single booking, as many bookings as I could possibly find. Didn't matter if it was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 hours away. I would go.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say between 2011 to 2014, I was booked, I believe, every single week, at least once a week. Sometimes it was multiple times a week, but it was just me hustling to different places. It wasn't about the money. It was just hey, I want to get out there. Once I started training people, it kind of slowed down a little. Real life with a job and my wife.
Of course.
Now I have 2 kids. I have another baby on the way.
Congratulations.
So it's that full-time job, training, running the wrestling, running the wrestling promotion, and it's a lot. I'm constantly working and getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night if I'm lucky. So it's just, but I love it. So I love seeing people progress, and I guess my ultimate goal with the school is to give people opportunities that I feel maybe I never got. So one of the number one things I ask the students when they come to school is, hey, give me a list of 3 people you want to wrestle. Just tell me who they are, whatever. Realistically, someone could come in and say, hey, I want to wrestle John Cena.
Right.
It's not, I don't want to say it's not a realistic thing, but it's not something that I could facilitate.
Well, he's retired now,
Yeah.
too, so it's even more unrealistic.
But something that I could facilitate for people. So and I feel I've given people a lot of people their dream matches that they wanted. So I'm happy about that, because I feel when I was younger and growing up, I didn't get those opportunities, and I love these students to death. So I want to give them that opportunity.
As a fan, I feel the independent wrestlers of the late 90s and 2000s really laid the groundwork, not just with their success, but with like a lot of like their struggles and like hurdles they had to get over. So it allowed the independent scene to become as successful as it is today, as there's more like opportunities. Would you say that's an accurate statement on my end?
Um, yes and no.
Okay.
Indie wrestling is it's very tough. Like, and nobody wants to hear this, but like, my theory is, hey, wrestle as much as possible, get your name out there, and don't necessarily look at it as, hey, I'm not going to do this booking because I'm not getting paid. I'm not saying don't get paid. I'm just saying, like, is the 40, $100 that you get really going to make that much of a difference to you? Like, I get it, but like, it's a long-term investment that you were pushing and driving and just consistently trying to get as many bookings as possible, quality bookings with that, to make a name for yourself. So now you can charge that money, like, so you can be noticed by like the higher up people to be like, oh, who is this guy? Like, we got to take a look at this guy, and then get signed. But you got to eat a lot of shit. Grow like in the indies. You'll never make money as an indie wrestler. Never. Like, people can say like, oh, they like make money on indie wrestling. Those are like the top quality guys. But even
Sure.
even then, even like the major promotions that you think like, oh man, this is like top 3 promotion, they're not paying nearly what you think they're paying. They're not paying minimum. They're not paying livable wages.
Right.
There's some TV companies that are not paying livable wages. So like, it's a constant grind to just get your name out there to get that contract. If you're doing this just to wrestle every once in a while and get money, then to me, I think you're in the wrong business. I think like you should be reaching to get as many bookings as humanly possible. But with that, like, there is also like, I think I veered way off of what you asked.
No, it's
But-
perfectly fine. This is like, this is like great right here. Like, I love hearing this perspective.
But wrestling is very cutthroat, especially like in New York. Like, people run shows against each other. People try to like, oh, you can't use this guy, yada yada, and like, it's a big like, instead of it being one big thing where people come together, everyone thinks that they have their little huddle thing, their own team, that's the best. So it kind of brings down the wrestling.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of opportunities in the New York and New Jersey area because there's a ton of promotions. There's shows being ran like every weekend. But to your point about it being like cutthroat, I do follow a lot of promotions on Instagram, and I do see a lot of shows being announced either on the same dates or the same weekend. Yeah. Everyone's trying to use like the same wrestlers, so I definitely understand that being a struggle.
Yeah. Like, I've tried to like use as much different wrestlers as possible and not like use. I've tried to bring in as many people as humanly possible.
Sure.
I feel like maybe my shows, I'm more known for bringing in like a couple of names here or there, or like talent from like Massachusetts, like Delaware, like areas that are not in New York, because I kind of don't want to be the same as the other New York or Long Island promotions that are running in the area. So I tend to not use as many local talents outside of my students, just because I want them to grow with those other promotions as well.
We got a little darkness in here. Nothing wrong with that.
Sorry,
It's all good, bro.
it's got a sensor. So it's like,
Yeah. So when you say you're bringing in like the outside talents, I think that as a fan looking in and as a content creator, I think that's incredibly smart. To make this about me momentarily with like my page, I try to do as much as possible to stand out and be different, because there's a ton of like pro wrestling content creators on social media. A lot of people are doing the same things, either still images, action figures is a big thing, posting clips of promos and highlights. I had to ask myself, if I'm going to get into this, what can I do that is completely different? And I picked my niche. It allowed me to grow. Eventually, other people started doing it, so I evolved.
Yeah.
The point being, as it compares to you, in order to succeed, you have to be different. If you're doing the same thing as everyone else, what makes you so special and to draw people to you?
Yeah. I mean, that's very true. Like, I tend to, like, because I don't use so many of the local talent, like, and I try to bring in, like, a lot more people, maybe, like, I spend more money. I probably spend more money on the shows, but I also don't get, like, the local, like, I don't get so much of the family crowd. So I tend to get, like, a more of, like, a hardcore, like, crowd that's, like, more of, like, an internet crowd, so to speak, because I don't tend to bring in, like most shows in Long Island are, like, predominantly, like, a student promotion where, like, the student comes and then, like, their family will come and watch them. So, like, a bunch of people will naturally come to that show. It's good and bad, I guess. There's different varying things because putting a lot of the students on the show does guarantee a bigger crowd.
Sure.
But at the same time, you want to be different as well. So it's kind of, I want to bring in people as well.
I feel like the crowd is such like a integral part of any show, and it's all about the crowd's cadence and energy level. So to your point about it, shows being a student crowd, if they have their friends and family, those friends and family, they're going to be loud, when their
Yes.
relative or friend is up, but when other people, they're quiet.
Quiet.
And that becomes like a ripple effect with like the other students and their family. So you may be like loud on one side, but the other side's like completely quiet and kind of throws off the vibe.
Yeah. So it's a hard juggling act. I've always I don't know. I've always thought about every connection to make a crowd with Ricky Morton.
Mm-hmm.
So Ricky Morton, one thing that he would say, like, just as it pertains to a crowd reaction, would be like, "Hey, Ricky Morton would sell to, like, one specific person, whether it was a girl, a guy, a baby, or something like that. He would sell to them and oversell every emotion to that person, because when that person reacted, the people around him would react, and then it would cause the ripple effect of everyone reacting, like, in an organic way. So, like, I try to, like, all time, every time, like, I'm selling to, like, sell to, like, so usually, like, a kid I'll find, because whatever, like, I'll sell to the kid, because then the kid's parents react, their friends react, the people around them react, and all of a sudden now it's a reaction throughout the whole place, and it's an organic reaction that I'm not focusing on so much, like, just try to get fake or non-organic reaction.
Well, the organic reactions definitely play a role in determining, who the crowds are really into as well, and also, like, where to go with, like, certain storylines or certain matches, who to use more, God forbid, who to use less. Now, I don't mean to backtrack, but you were saying earlier that when a student signs up for the school, you ask them to give 3 wrestlers they would love to realistically wrestle.
Yeah.
What's one name that you've seen the most? What's the most common name?
I would say there was a point in time where I would say the most, like, popular one was Matt Cardona. He was probably the most popular one. That within, like, because I gave them, like, I said, hey, obviously I don't want you to pick, like, people that are dead or people that are
Right.
not gonna happen. Like, unfortunately, like, I would love to wrestle CM Punk, but CM Punk is not going to come to an indie show unless, even when he was unsigned, he would come to an indie show for less than $100,000.
Yeah.
And an indie show cannot make $100,000 ever, even with Punk on it.
Right.
So, like, it's got to be, like, realistic. And I would say, like, Cardona was one that popped up all the time. We did book him one time. He was hurt, though, so he didn't really wrestle. He just came in, hit someone with the title for a Rumble. But
Well, Cardona's was realistic when he was on the indie scene, given that he's a Long Island native, he's a legend. Definitely somebody people gravitate towards.
yeah.
Like,
But he's the definition of pushing and, like, drive. Like, he just had a natural drive to him to succeed. Whereas most people would be like, oh, let me just go on the indies get $3,000 from these guys and then ride off into the sunset. He wanted it. He fucking pushed on the indie level and just kept grinding and grinding and grinding and just, he made a name for himself on the indies. He's more popular as Matt Cardona than it was as Zack Ryder.
Which is impressive because he was really over as Zack Ryder when he started doing his YouTube series.
Yeah.
The thing that is really impressive with Cardona when he first came onto the indies, like you were saying, he could have just gone to, promotion to promotion, collect his check, and then, move on. But he was hustling merchandise. He was hustling on the podcast, hustling with the action figures. He was acting as if he had something to prove when he really didn't. And the amount of merchandise he was moving was absurd. And it's not because he's such a well-known name. It's because of how he marketed himself.
Yeah, he marketed himself good. He'll tell you there's instances where he spent more money on his entrance to the ring than he was getting paid. So he was willing to put money into stuff so that for a moment. So and those moments when he comes out with the Ghostbuster car and stuff like that, that has millions of views, and he was able to turn that into an action figure to make extra money. But he was willing to know firsthand, hey, I'm going to lose money on this at first and then throw it in. He just naturally just hustled and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's making savvy moves and investments, and plus stuff like that. Doing those special entrances on an indie show, if they go viral, it's not just beneficial to Cardona. It's beneficial to the promotion.
Yeah.
It's beneficial to the wrestlers who's on that show, especially whoever his opponent or opponents were.
Yeah, I mean definitely. He obviously GCW was GCW. It's always been big, but I think Brett Lauderdale, who runs it, would admit that once Cardona came, it kind of got elevated and stuff like that.
I feel it became a national indie promotion, and I think they're the only national indie promotion running at the moment, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, I would say they're
by national
outside of WWE, TNA, and AEW, they're the number 4 company in America. We could say MLW or NWA or whoever else has TV, but I don't believe that to be accurate. I think GCW is number 4. I think they have the most buzz. Most people talk about them more than any other company.
Yeah, they ran the Hammerstein show back-to-back years. They're nationwide. They're not just in a region. They do the East Coast, West Coast, all over the country. Plus, they'll do collaboration shows with European promotions.
Yeah.
I know they did a couple of shows with Banger Zone Wrestling in France, and which is huge. There's no other indie promotion in America, if I'm not mistaken, that's doing stuff like that. So to say they're number 4, it's not far-fetched. Even without the TV deal, MLW, it does well, but how often are they really running shows? They're doing tapings in advance.
Yeah.
Same with NWA. Plus, GCW has that very strong, passionate cult following that as a promoter you want to have.
Yeah, I could tell you just offhand I could book GCW a GCW wrestler will, for me, usually gets more tickets sold than sometimes me bringing in a former WWE champion.
See,
a lot of times
that's crazy
because they have cult followings that want to see them, even though it's New York and you can't get away with a lot of stuff through regulations. People still want to see them in person.
Yeah, you can't do the tables. You gotta use doors.
Yeah.
But it's funny you mentioned that you can get more attraction for a GCW wrestler than a WWE. At the last show, you had Joey Janela here, who is one of the most iconic wrestlers in the history of GCW.
He is. I think he is the most iconic wrestler in GCW. I think if it wasn't for Joey Janela, GCW would not be as big as it is.
I feel he's one of the most influential indie wrestlers of all time because of the heights he took indie wrestling. When he first did a Joey Janela Spring Break, it brought so much business and eyes on the indie scene because you weren't just running a show somewhere. You were running it WrestleMania weekend at the location. it generates so much like buzz and money, getting eyes on like brand new talent.
Yeah.
So like I feel like Joey Janela, like in the eyes of fans, doesn't really get the credit like he deserves when people talk about like top like indie talent. I'm sure in the eyes of like like other wrestlers and promoters, he does get that respect. But I'll see people online just like trash Joey Janela. Oh, he's a garbage wrestler. He can't wrestle. Blah blah blah. And that's not the case. I've seen him do non-hardcore matches. I remember watching him in AEW. The guy's a phenomenal worker.
Yeah, like me and like Joey Janela kind of like started in like the same like time frame. And I wrestled Joey Janela probably like in the beginning. Probably wrestled him like 7-8 times, stuff like that. We had some title matches together too. He's always been cool and stuff like that. But he was like he hustled and stuff like that, and like he would go to all these shows and stuff like that. But I think it's him, Nick Gage, and Cardona are the three most influential wrestlers in GCW, I would say. And I would say Janela is the most influential indie wrestler in the last decade, for sure.
It's funny you say that. I saw on X the other day, Brett Lauderdale said something similar, but said the past 20 years. And I commented on that. I didn't get a response, but my comment was, you're not wrong, but what makes him more influential than the Young Bucks? Because the Young Bucks were not only influential in the style that we see today, but they were very influential with like hustling merchandise on the indies. They were part of a cultural iconic faction in the Bullet Club over in New Japan, and they bet on themselves and left New Japan and played like a significant role in starting AEW, which instantly became the number 2 company, the first like major mainstream company since WCW went out of business, and one can argue they've overtaken WCW historically.
Yeah, I mean the Young Bucks are definitely up there. I think the Young Bucks just, I guess, have almost always had something to fall back on.
Right.
They were in TNA, they were in ROH, TNA, ROH, New Japan. So they've always had like the buzz. They've always had a huge buzz, but it's always attached to like a promotion, so to speak. Like I know they're probably most famous for like an indie level for their PWG work and stuff like that. But like,
that was some crazy stuff.
I do think that like they've always had a contract for the most part, like whether it's TNA, ROH, New Japan. So whereas like Joey never had the contract. And he had the AEW contract, but like he rose way before the AEW contract. If anything, the AEW contract kind of brought him down a little.
How so?
I just like because they weren't using him to his full potential that he had, I think, at the time. In the beginning they were, but then like they kind of just dropped it. I feel like his best move was leaving AEW. Maybe not financially, but career-wise, I think it was.
I agree, and like I'm surprised like they didn't do much with him, because his match with Kenny Omega like was one of the best like matches in the history of AEW, and that was at the very beginning.
Yeah, that was a dark match, right?
Yeah, that was on Dark.
Yeah.
And speaking of Dark, I missed Dark, but that's another story. But like Joey Janela is not just like a great wrestler. Like he has like a character that they could have used.
Yeah.
Like he was over with the crowd. He had Penelope Ford, who's still over today.
Yeah.
And if he was still with like AEW, like I could definitely see him with like Megasis, just like being like the rock star of like all the ladies.
Yeah.
Like he has like a certain like charisma about him that like you can't teach. He may not have that like muscled out look that some people look for.
Yeah.
But like you can't teach charisma.
Yeah. No, he is. Again, he is. I feel like. I guess you said Brett said it too. He is the most popular influential indie wrestler. I would say like in the last like 10 years, like I don't know who was, like there was a lot more influential wrestlers like when I grew up and stuff like that, like Trent Acid, Homicide, Low Key, Christopher Daniels. Mike Modest, like Reckless Youth,
Jerry Lynn, the Lightning Kid.
1, 2, 3
A lot of people forget about that.
Yeah.
I forget what was D'Lo Brown's name on Independence, because a lot of people forget he was in Smoky Mountain Wrestling and was considered like a big like name before he came over. But he was another one too that like, had some influence.
I don't remember it, but I want to say it was AC something.
AC Connor, AC Turner.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank as well, but
sure. Sorry. Sorry.
So now going back to the school and the promotion, you just had like a phenomenal show a couple weeks ago. You have another one coming up in Whitestone. What can you tell me about the next show?
So the next show in Whitestone, it's my hometown. It's where I grew up. It's for the past 6 years. It's the one show I've wanted to run in my neighborhood where I grew up, and I've always been turned down, like time after time, saying no, it's not going to happen, never not going to happen, can't happen, whatever. And I've tried multiple different locations. I've gotten close to Whitestone, like the town over, and finally they said yes.
What made it so difficult? Is it just like rules and regulations?
They just didn't want wrestling in the town, in the neighborhood. And so it just so happens that where it's going to be is where I grew up playing basketball. And I spent my whole youth playing basketball in that place. And I can tell you, we're more than 50 days away from the show. And the capacity in the building is 350. And we've already sold 326 tickets, so there's only 24 tickets remaining. So by the time this airs, it might be sold out.
Yeah, I think it's gonna sell out, definitely.
It's gonna sell out, and I couldn't be more prouder to just wrestle in Whitestone, because
it's a sentimental moment for you. It's like it's almost like a career milestone that you like I thought might have never happened, but it's like a coming home of sorts. So it definitely has a lot of sentiment and special vibes to it.
Yeah, and we've already set up to return to Whitestone in June with a pretty big free agent, I would say.
Can you shed some light on the free agent, or it's too early to say?
I can't really. I'll just say he's a former WWE World Champion.
Okay.
Yeah.
By world champion, you mean like world heavyweight champion, universal? Okay.
Heavyweight champion, yeah.
All right, that's awesome right there. Can't wait to find out who the mystery man is. But what about the show that's coming? The first show in Whitestone. Do you have anything special planned for that? Any like big names being brought in? Any matches planned?
So we got Tommy Dreamer coming in. I don't necessarily know what he's doing. I don't book the show, so I got to find out from the person. So like that, it is going to be me and Gabriel Sky in a ladder match for the championship. Me and Gabe have been feuding for well over 2 years, I believe.
Okay.
It's a love-hate relationship. I love Gabe. He's my student. At the same time, he's kind of a dick. So it's, but Gabe has been the most recognizable, remarkable champion. His first reign was 411 days, and I believe come 441, actually, 441. And his second reign, if he doesn't lose it before then, or once he wrestles me, will be 413 days, I believe. So
might end there, right?
Well, it's gonna end there. But
Gabe is definitely, without question, the ace of Remarkable. You can make a strong argument that he's like the ace of Long Island and even like the New York, wrestling promotions in its entirety. Definitely, without question, one of the top like indie wrestlers in the Northeast and in the country, which is amazing right there.
Yeah.
Would you say he's like you're the best student you've ever had, or one of the best students you've had?
I would. I don't want to say one of the best. I don't want to say the best student.
Sure.
Gabe is very good. Gabe
is.
Gabe is amazingly well. Like Desmond Cole as well. one of my other students. Amazing. He's currently hurt right now, but he is
That's unfortunate.
fucking amazing as well. Akira Kwan, like another one of my students, he's also amazing. He's assigned to MLW. Like I would say maybe those three are probably the top three. No, and I can't say one is better than the other. They all have different aspects that make them better than the other. But I'd say combined, like those are the three best.
Oh yeah, different styles, and they do them well. You know, I hope Desmond like comes back soon. I'm not sure what happened, but he was on a roll. I saw his match against Donovan Dijak at I think it was Limitless.
Yeah.
Freaking Dijak's like 4 times the size of him, and like I could have sworn maybe I was seeing things, but I could have sworn I saw Desmond Cole powerbomb Dijak or something like that, and he did that beautifully.
Yeah, he did powerbomb him. Yeah, I was pretty impressed. I watched that match.
Now, of your current students, is there somebody that you can point to that like has a really bright future like in the business based on how they're progressing, or is it too early to tell with like the current batch of students?
Yeah, there's like a lot of the newer students I seem to be getting it, like Brandon Decker. I think he'll have a good future if he continues with it. Roger, his worker name is Rogelio. I think if he sticks with it, like he'll be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I have another student, Mike. Like those are probably like the 3 newer students. But if they stick with it, I think they could be elevated to that same level that like Akira Kwan, Gabe, and like Desmond are. They just have to be like passionate about it and be willing to like, hustle a lot.
And eat the shit as as you said earlier. And as a trainer, like what does that feel like to you when somebody comes into your school for the very first time to learn, and let's say 3 years from that point, like they're wrestling in like top like indie promotions or like Major League Wrestling, like that, to me that's like a crazy feeling, like somebody just coming in completely clueless and like you're just molding them into what you feel could be like the best version of them and seeing them like succeed. Like Gabe Sky, and I'm not just saying this, I will be shocked if within the next 2 or 3 years you're not seeing him on like TNA, AEW, like NXT, WWE, like he has it.
Yeah. It's very rewarding. Like, I guess to be current back a little, I would say, like on my career, I gave up on my career a long time ago. Because I want my students to succeed more. Like, I feel like I want my students to succeed more than I ever wanted myself to succeed. So like, when they have an awesome match and they call me up or like text me like, yo bro, I just had this awesome match, thank you, blah whatever, thank you for everything, blah blah blah. Like, to me that's rewarding. Like, I might not get to see like I might not ever get to wrestle in like WWE or AEW or whatever, but like through their eyes, when they reach that goal, like I've made it physically through their eyes.
Their success is your success.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why they succeed is because of like your training and guidance, like throughout like everything.
So I mean, like, and I will say this in full transparency, I think the cream will always rise to the top no matter where you train. You could train at the best school, you could train at the worst school. To me, the cream will always rise to the top. Like, if you're really good and really passionate and really have that drive and everything to make it, you will make it, regardless of where you're training. There's people that have been backyard wrestlers that have made it. By just being a backyard wrestlers and not actually having any proper training, they've made it. So it's not like, and there's people that wrestle like at the greatest schools in the world. Like people that have performance center have everything, like, I don't want to say hand fed to them, but like given the opportunity of a lifetime, and they fail.
It's about passion.
it's really just what you have in your heart and like your drive and your passion that are gonna make you the best wrestler and get you to where you want to be.
It's funny you mentioned backyard wrestling. I did that as a kid with my friends, and it was fun, but it also like told me like, yeah, don't be a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
Like because doing the backyard wrestling, like that stuff hurt. Like granted, like we're not like, we weren't trained or anything,
Yeah.
but we were using certain precautions. But just like as a fan, when I watch matches and like I see how guys land, even on like what is deemed to be, quote unquote simple and basic,
Yeah.
that hurts.
Yeah. No. People have this perception that we're wrestling on trampolines. Like, I mean, I feel like a lot of people have seen what a wrestling ring looks like nowadays, and like it's just a metal frame, planks of wood, and then an inch of padding. Like, there's no way you can not get hurt. It hurts falling. You fall from that top rope, like it hurts. There's no way you cannot not make it hurt. Like, you can try to fall as flat as possible to like disperse the damage and stuff like that, but it is still painful. Like, every time I train, I leave and I'm in pain for like a day or two. If I don't like stretch the next morning or the next day, like I'm in massive amounts of pain. I can barely walk.
And that's just from training. Like, what's the pain level like after like a match of let's say like 10-15 minutes? Which is definitely like a long time when like you're going through like the pain.
It really varies. Like if you have a crowd on your side and they are invested into everything you are doing, there's natural like adrenaline that just like shoots through your body where it almost makes you pain free as you're wrestling. And it isn't until like there's that cool off like an hour or two later where then you're like, shit, my back kind of hurts. Oh, damn, I might have tweaked my knee a little. Oh, my ankle's a little, sprained, whatever. You don't feel that while you're out there, because when you're wrestling, the best way to explain wrestling would be, and I'm not like, I don't do drugs or anything like that, but like the best way to explain it would be like a high from, I guess what people get a high from when they smoke, when they, like do drugs. It's a euphoric feeling knowing that you're able to control hundreds of people's motion. And when done right, like it makes you feel like this like euphoric feeling that you just can't explain. When it's not done right, and like sometimes you could have the best match in the world and the crowd just isn't with it that night. Like it's up to you to like change the match mid-match to make it so that people care. But like wrestling is a drug, I guess.
Oh,
the best way to explain it.
I agree. Like, I definitely have like an addiction to it. Oddly enough, I stopped watching for like 8 years, from like late 2002 to like the beginning of 2010, and I got back into it because of Ring of Honor. And when AEW came, I became like a weekly viewer again. And like in the past year, like I'm like the most obsessed like I've ever been, because I've been venturing out to like looking at more like independent promotions, not just in the country, but outside the country. Like that's, you know what I'm saying? Like that's my drug. That's my high. Like seeing like that next like best thing. Yeah. So like I definitely get where like you're coming from, of the concept of like wrestling being a drug, and as a trainer and a promoter, that's like another high you're getting too. Like that other wrestlers like can't like understand, because they're not training people, they're not building them from scratch, they're not promoting shows and getting that like gate and like a crowd that's just like invested. Like that's, to me, that seems like a totally indescribable like euphoria right there.
Yeah, I mean, like it's a drug, and it's hard to explain to people on the outside. Like I'm not big into anime, but like every yearly we do like a Comic-Con event and stuff like that, or like we'll do some rentals and like it'll be like an anime like theme thing, and like on the surface I'm looking like, what is this all about? Like, and I want to be like, I don't get this.
Right.
And like same thing with, there's like Disney buffs and stuff like that. It's, you either get wrestling or you don't get it.
Yeah, 100%.
Like it's hard to explain to someone who doesn't know wrestling, like, oh, these two people are going to go in, they're going to wear underwear and they're going to fight each other for a belt. Like, that to me, like, like somebody on the outside might be like, well, it's kind of weird. Like, what's this about? This is weird. Like, and I want to say that sometimes for like people who like have these like, I don't want to say like anime, but like maybe even anime, like, like I don't get it, but like I can't hate on it because I don't get it, because like people don't get wrestling, so it'd be foolish for me to hate on other people's passions and stuff like that and interest.
The funny thing with anime, it's actually big in the wrestling community online. A lot of like some content creators like who do like utilize AI, they do like turn like images of like wrestlers into like anime, and they come out like pretty cool. So I'm not sure where the anime like comes from with the popularity in wrestling, but it's definitely a thing. And it's funny like what you said about explaining wrestling to a non-wrestling fan. So I work part-time at a cigar shop, and everybody knows I freaking love wrestling, man.
Yeah.
But they'll say, oh, like that stuff's fake, that stuff's predetermined, blah, blah, blah. Like they hate on it. But when I put it on, they can't stop watching it.
Yeah, I mean...
And then all of a sudden they start talking about like, guys from like the 80s and the 90s, and like they're these big wrestling fans all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, I get that all the time. Like, people don't like it, but then they'll start watching it when I'm watching it. So it's kind of like, but it's either you get it or you don't get it, and it's a drug that you can't explain if you do get it. Like, I don't know.
It's definitely very niche, but I will say I feel like in the past 5 years, it's been more socially acceptable for people to just come out and say, yeah, I'm a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like there was like this big stigma for like the longest time, but now like people are like, I'm a wrestling fan. I don't care like if like you like it or not. Like, this is what I like. I'm gonna be open about it, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, people should just I don't know. I feel like there's a negative stigma on wrestling when there really shouldn't be. I think people should just be able to like and do what they want to do within reason of it being normal. I don't know.
And it's not like there's like a ton of like controversy with pro wrestling. Like at the end of the day, like pro wrestling does have like like a good like reputation like amongst like its wrestlers and and like the fans. It's been big business like since like the 80s. So it's like to like hate on something that's like successful is ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah, and it brings people like together that would otherwise not be in the same room. Like you can go to a locker room and there'll be like some country guy, and then there'll be like somebody who like loves like rock and roll and stuff like that. Somebody who's like, is carrying a Bible with them. Someone who's like the Antichrist and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's just like they'll bond over the simple fact that they love wrestling.
Yeah,
even though they're so complete opposites from each other, like there's that one connection of wrestling that bonds them together that makes them happy.
Yeah, like it's people from all walks of life that you never would have given the time of day for, like had you not known, they like wrestling.
Yeah.
It's like the moment you hear that, it's like, okay, let's see how much of a fan this person is, and then, before you know it, like an hour passes because you're such in like a big conversation over it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your time,
No problem.
but let me ask you just one more question.
Sure.
What is your goal for the school and for the promotion for the rest of 2026?
The school and the promotion. So the school is going to be moving locations. It's not going to be here. We're getting a bigger location.
Congratulations.
So that should be happening in probably like July or August.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the promotion, I just want to see it grow. I'm not saying I want to be like the biggest company in New York or anything like that, but I just would like to see it grow. We are going to be branching a lot into like Queens and like different areas, not so much staying in Long Island like all the time. So it is going to be expanding to like different like areas of New York. I do just want to see it expand more and more. As far as the school, I want to get the next Gabe. the next Buffa, the next Kwan,
They're out
the next
there.
Percy Ryan, like just people that, you know, make me proud that I'm a trainer and stuff like that.
They're definitely out there. Well,
Yeah.
listen, I really appreciate your time.
problem.
It's been a pleasure talking to you. You know, I wish you the best, and you know, this has been like an awesome experience to get like an insight into like the school, the promotions, and just what it's like being an indie wrestler.
No problem. Anytime you want to come, you're more than welcome to come.
Don't say that if you don't mean it. I'll be here every Tuesday.
Not every Tuesday, but you know.
All right, thank you, man.
No problem, man.